Because I know what you're saying, okay? I'm getting my head wrapped around what you're saying, okay? And but if the pre-design is the setback of the turbine is such that it can't emit more than 35 at your house, that means it can never emit 45. It's physically impossible for it to emit 45. So if it's 45 decibels, for whatever the reasons are, who knows, at your house, okay? You won't hear the wind turbine is the point. You can't hear it because it's being drowned out from the 45 decibel sound. You can't, 35 plus 45 is still 45. But 45 plus 35 is 45, and 35 plus 45 is another number, I don't know what it is.
I guess we don't need to spend much time talking about an ordinance that's going to change anyway. So.
Right, well we're looking at, because Hessler is, I think, trying to guide us to a place where we're totally controlled by sound, that is the issue that bothers people, is the sound. And we want to focus on the sound. We spend a lot of time talking about these distances, but the sound is where we want to put our efforts. Because we don't want to make it too loud.
But just like speed limits on a road, they set a speed limit on a road. That doesn't mean that, we could set the speed limit out here at 100, but nobody's ever going to do 100 in that rare.
A couple people will.
Yeah. Because you set a limit, it's like a speed limit. That does not mean you're ever going to get there in certain situations.
Is that an argument for increasing the speed limit to 100?
I don't know how that's going to get to work.
But at the same time, would you set, because let's say that most of the cars that are on the road can only do 45 miles an hour, okay? Would you set the speed limit at 45 because of that? Or would you say, well, the road's designed for 60, we set the speed limit at 60, even though we know nobody's ever going to go more than 45, because that's all the cars can go. Yeah.
But is 50 really an acceptable sound level at all? Or, that's really what he's getting down to, I think.
Well, I think that's what we have is some people that want absolutely none at all, but in that case, I'd suggest we also ban cars on the roads in Clifton and ban lawnmowers at people's houses. And
I'm solely asking about whether 50 would be an acceptable constant for a future project.
He said 50 miles per hour.
We were talking about the decibel levels before.
No, we don't think 50 is a good idea.
Personally,
we're not using 50.
So that won't be in the bill then?
Say that again?
That won't be in the article, that 50 is an acceptable level then?
I don't think so. Unless it's like 45 decibels at your house all the time.
Yeah, good enough then. For me anyway.
Right?
again, Hessler was recommending we take out that plus. And after reading his argument, I would agree with it, but we have to discuss that in the workshop.
Right, so probably not. It sounded like it probably won't be then. That's why we're going to have the discussion of this letter. So why don't you go back to the website real quickly, just really fast, try to buzz through some of the articles just so people can have a quick, or just put it this way, okay, actually I'll take a quick poll. Has anybody in here not gone to the website and looked at the articles at all? Okay. I know you guys have an issue down there with your internet.
Well, it's not just, my computer's been torn up and all that, but to be honest, just getting the clean election campaign and getting myself properly
No, I understand. I know that you're busy with a lot of different activities right now. So maybe what we can do is go straight into hearing some public input, and then maybe we can go there at the end, because I think everybody has looked at them. We can get you a printout. I know you're having a hard time getting it, so maybe Debbie, you can work with her and get her something so that she can look it over.
Okay.
And again, anyone here that wants to actually go visit Bull Hill, I'll be glad to go over with you. We'll take the meter over and we'll set it up at various distances. I used GPS to measure exact distance.
I just want to show them what's, because we
seem to be having a technical problem.
Is Bull Hill?
Again, come on.
Is Bull Hill Eastbrook?
It's the one you can see from the top of Chick Hill, and it's over here about.
Get down to Spec
Well, if it's Eastbrook, their setback is a mile from a sensitive receptor.
Well, again, these distances, just setting a raw distance is turning out to be immaterial.
I mean, I happened to come across the other day, the email from you to me with Eastbrook's ordinance saying how you liked it, what a good job they did on it, and so I happened to look in, and they had a mild
Right, but I've also learned a
setback.
lot since then. That was like a year ago.
Oh, okay.
You know, some of us actually change our minds as we learn more.
Oh, okay.
But you didn't.
What happens,
Irrelevant, I mean, you may, it doesn't need to be that far.
That's the whole point.
Because actually, there is some public stuff on here that we need to go.
I have a question.
Go ahead. I'm trying to, go ahead and ask it. Yes, please.
When is the final product that you want us to vote on gonna be ready for us to?
You probably, well, I think it says on the schedule, May 15th, or May 17th, but I think I'm trying to shoot for May 10th.
And is there gonna be a hearing after that final product is done?
We're gonna have, as Carol had asked, probably 2 or 3 public information sessions about that document here throughout the month of May and maybe even the first week of June before the actual vote.
But after the final product, after you guys
Yes,
are all done?
yes, it will all be done. There won't be any changes of it. This will just be a
And we'll
literally,
be able to see it in black and white?
right, this will be just for information session, yeah. I don't know what's going on with this thing. A little bit of-
Play with it.
Get a copy of, shoot, no, it's up there. I gotta get it all.
Settings, you've got that picture of the 2 different windows.
I've got some stuff here that was submitted, and I just need to get to it. Well, yeah, if you can just, just go.
That's the background.
It's background. Let's try this.
There you go.
Oh, you know what? I think it thinks it has 2 displays.
Somebody came in and took them out.
Is it online?
Wonders of modern technology.
All right, close that page.
Oh, sure, if we want to.
Thanks, Dave.
Now I can't.
Upper right.
Rather than scrolling down, why don't you just click on each left page?
Yeah, just click on
left-hand
those. Well, you don't have to do this. I just want to get out of this page.
Well, the problem is the screen's gone.
Yeah.
That thing is on the screen. You're not guiding it there? Okay.
I got
I'm gonna roll up. Go left to public hearing, April 17th. Come down. Okay, just a couple things. This electronic document that I printed out, that's those comments there. This is the Beaver Ridge sound monitoring that Bill Rand sent to the town hall a couple days ago, or yesterday, or something like that. You don't have to get that out at the moment. But if somebody wants to go and review that, that's the one that Haskell worked on. And then I guess we'll just click on this one, because Peter Becker's on here. Those are his comments.
You want to open it?
Yes, please. So it says, and we'll have to answer these questions probably next week. It says, I have a permit for an accessory residential unit, as you know. How are your proposed LUO amendments going to affect it? I want these turbines as far as possible from it and expect at least 4,000 feet as the LUO reads. I plan on renting it out this summer, but I deserve to know what to expect. Changing the rules after I've started construction seems pretty wrong, probably illegal. Next comment, please. Looks to me like you never incorporated the protection for hunting cabins, etc., back into the LUO after it got voted back in, June vote, I believe. Could be wrong, but check it. Number 3, this spike cabin talk is obviously aimed at my cabin. Are you tailoring an ordinance amendment to deal with my cabin, Peter Effort? So those were the comments that I got yesterday from you. Look for my table at home. I'll make sure you get them tomorrow. The paper, I'll scan it in so I could go online so we can do this tonight. But whether he would be here or not. So we can actually can that for a few minutes, and then if somebody wants to chat, they can come up and. I think Paula, you had mentioned you wanted to chat about something. Welcome aboard.
Well, I was gonna go back and,
Oh, here's.
we could skip back to, the question that Jessica submitted at the first hearing about, the rationale
Hey,
behind.
Paula, could you just come up front, please? Thanks.
The rationale behind, protecting undevelopable shoreline resource protection land and not protecting developable non-shoreline. As the ordinance reads now, I found your answer off point, that's why I'm bringing it up again. As the ordinance reads now, wetlands and streams are protected locations. And you're proposing to take that away, which to me lessens the injustice of protecting streams and wetlands when you don't protect developable land that people have. But you say in your answer that you talk about wetlands needing protection, so it seemed contrary to, that reasoning seemed contrary to what you're doing. You're removing wetlands from protected locations, or calling them sensitive receptors now. You're removing wetlands by your change, right?
Yes, and I can address that. I wrote that originally, and it was pointed out to me afterwards when it was too late to change it, because I never meant to protect all wetlands. The intent at the beginning, and I know everybody else here agreed at the time, was to simply protect the shoreline
Right, and
around Great Ponds. So we're correcting what was basically a mistake made at that time.
what my question was, so now you're taking that out, which seems kind of reasonable to me, especially the wetlands. But I still don't understand if a shoreland is not developable, why should it have a lower sound level, sound limit placed on it than somebody's backyard, or the back part of their lot, or the front part, if you're only protecting around the sensitive receptors, only getting the lower limit? Why would you protect, why would you call, I was trying to think of some resource protection around the Great Pond, the farther end of Parks Pond. Why would you protect that more than somebody's house lot?
So you want to know, just so I can just phrase this question correctly, because you didn't write this down, did you?
It was written from the last hearing.
Right,
What's
well,
the rationale behind protecting undevelopable shoreland resource protection land and not protecting developable non-shoreland? So if you have a 5-acre lot that your house is on, around your house, 100 feet around your house, has a lower sound limit. You get the benefit of the lower limit around your house, but the back or off to the sides or wherever isn't protected by that lower limit. But if you have a piece of shoreland on a great pond, which isn't developable because it's been zoned resource protection, that shoreland is protected the same as your house, not your backland, but your house. I don't see the rationale behind that.
So why is protecting a wetland more protected from?
No.
Okay.
That's where your answer missed the point.
Well, Paula,
You're not-
you helped write this originally, Paula, and at the time when we discussed it, the thought was that all land directly around the pond is some of the most valuable land in the town. There's very little of it that is still resource protection, and much of that could end up being taken out of resource protection in the future. All of those potential house lots within that 250 feet are potentially worth probably 10 times what an acre of land is that's out in the middle of the woods. The thought at the time was we should protect that valuable land around the shorelines. Now, personally, I'd be glad to take that resource protection land out, but that was the thought at the time, and you were on the board when we wrote it.
Well, every time we propose that something is perhaps unjust because this is protected but this isn't, instead of adding the protection to the part that we're proposing that needs more protection, you go, oh, okay, so we'll take the protection off this other one, and instead of adding protection to the one we're asking you please to protect, you're saying, nah,
It's in the front of the screen.
we're not going to add protection where you're asking for. We're going to. You pointed out this one's got more protection, so we're going to take that away. That's all I got to say on that.
Okay.
Could you ask the question in the opposite way? Why are special protections being suggested for homes? Isn't that natural? You should have peace and quiet in your home. You know, if she phrases it, why are the rest of your property, why is that being allowed a greater noise level or damage level, when you could look at it as the board providing for special protections around someone's home where they live, where they sleep, where they make their meals. Doesn't that make sense to you? It's the glass half full and half empty argument. You can look at it one way or the other.
I just want to make sure I could hear what you said.
So, okay, you want to clarify the answer on why is protecting the natural resources more important than protecting?
Actually, it would be, why is protecting developable land less important to you than protecting undevelopable shoreland?
Okay, well, we'll try to reevaluate that question. I mean, I don't think that we understood exactly what was being asked last week when we saw it written down. So we'll try to look over the question again, and based on what you just told us, try to rethink that answer.
And so I'm not campaigning to take it away from the shoreland resource protection. I'm campaigning to add it to people's property.
Add what?
The protection of the lower sound limit.
What they want is 35 dBA at all property.
At property lines, yeah.
Townwide.
No, that's not gonna work out in our neck of the woods.
All right. Paula, did you have something? I thought you were going to talk a little bit about Dave's stuff, or was that kind of tied up with what we talked about earlier?
Which stuff?
Dave's stuff. Last night when we talked briefly, you said you were going to talk
About Hester's?
Dave's letter.
Hester's?
Yeah. I mean, do you have any comments before we start to meet next week to talk about whether we should go up or down or around? Do you have anything else to say about Dave's stuff?
Actually, I mean, I was kind of pleased with a lot of things he said. Especially when he said that you needed to make things more practical and to eliminate needless complexity. one of his earlier suggestions had been to make it simpler, adopt the state standards. And Bruce rather CYA he said, no, I don't think we're gonna do that. That would be political suicide to do that. But it seems to me that there are simpler ways to do this than 5 or 6 or 7 pages of protocol. And
I think one of the real problems with the state standards was even at the time, the state was having a hard time with wind projects. I think that was when the bad discussions of North Haven first arose, right in the middle of when we were doing this in the first place. And so I think that definitely threw a little bit of cold water on just accepting the state standards carte blanche. And we wanted to be sure that we didn't have North Haven going on.
well, Mars Hill hit the DEP quite hard.
Right, so I don't know why we would want to accept the state standards.
No, I didn't think that was a good alternative.
Oh, okay, I just checking.
No,
I thought you were trying to
No,
endorse.
I'm just saying.
Okay,
He
just checking.
His first impression, though, of what you guys had written was, whoa, this is too complex for you guys to,
I know, you wrote it.
me? No, we copied it. We didn't write it, we copied
Well, same thing.
it. Yeah.
You're the one that brought it into the meetings and said, let's do this.
No,
But anyway,
no.
no, I know, believe me, I do have a, even though I disagree with you on some things, I definitely have more appreciation for what you did.
I think you might, yes.
Now that I've been sitting at home trying to put everybody's stuff together for this, so believe me, I definitely appreciate all the time and hours that you spent doing it the first time through. So,
Why do you think I quit when it was done?
so Jessica, you want to go, or you,
You
oh,
know,
wait, she's still going.
You know, there were, like you said.
Paul, want to come up again? Rick likes to have your photogenic presence.
Go up front, that was the rule.
Oh, is that why? I thought you couldn't hear me.
No, I can't
If you
turn
could
the camera that far
and face
around.
it so you can help.
You know, he said you need to work on the table. That would have been my feeling from my looking at it, that you needed to work on the table. So that's where I think that some of the simplification can come in. But in order to do that, you have to put a higher priority on simplifying than you do on being accommodating to developers. And that's the bottom line right there. If you want, Hessler speaks from his experience of defending and standing for developers. And he suggests to you that you may be having some burdensome requirements in here. Burdensome for who? Not for the people of the citizens of the town, not necessarily for you guys, but I think it would be burdensome for you, but burdensome for the developer. Where's the sense of balance here? Where's looking out for the people of the town? Now, because Hessler, we listened to you in January and February saying, Hessler and everybody else says, well, maybe it's that really low frequency, maybe it's the infrasound that's making people sick, so we really need to buckle down and have a better low frequency standard. And now Hessler says, you don't have to worry about low frequency, throw out the low frequency standard, and you say, well, maybe I think maybe we better throw out the low frequency standard. You have to find your line and make a good, solid rationale for that. And I think you guys are up against a time frame again, just as we've been in the past. You've got too many changes to make in too short a time.
No, last time we had a public hearing 3 days before the deadline, so I think we got a little bit more time this time.
You know, you guys had, when we finished the ordinance in 2010, it really wasn't vetted good. there was a moratorium vote coming. People went out and said, no, we don't need a moratorium, we're solid, we got it solid. And as soon as we got it voted in, you started finding the problems with it. You need to take the time to vet this before you put it out for a vote. And I think you're crazy to put it up and down, the whole thing or nothing. I think that's crazy.
I don't see any other way to do it, Paul, because everything is so intertwined, because the procedures weren't good in the other ordinance, so we had to change the procedures around.
Divide it up.
It can't be divided up.
Yeah, the articles 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, those don't need to be tied into wind turbine noise.
Well, that's your opinion, we thank you for your opinion.
You know, changing, taking
Oh,
out.
okay, so hang on a second, Paul, just to get a sense for this. So what you would be endorsing, just so we can understand what you're saying to don't do anything to the wind. Is that what you're saying?
Don't do anything then?
To the wind part.
No, I'm saying take that out. Don't tie the other.
Well, what would you recommend that we did with the wind part in June?
I don't know, you guys have totally confused me. I've come to every meeting and it's made me more confused than when I started.
Well, I'm actually less confused, but anyway.
Yeah, that could have happened anyway. But anyway, no, I'm not saying do this, don't do that. I'm saying separate them out.
Well, okay, but then what would be the alternatives then? What would be the alternatives? If we separate them out, how would you deal? Okay, so let's just go 1 through 5. Okay, so what do you do with 6, 7, 8, 9, and then what do you do? What in particular? What do you do with 14? I'd be curious.
I think you could separate. I've taken the changes that you have, Articles 1 through 5 and 7. I've printed out what the ordinance says now and what you're proposing it should say. And that covers 7.5 pages. You could put that in the office tomorrow and people could look at that and give you feedback and say yay or nay. Go ahead with that or something. Waiting until the middle of May, when it's too late to change any of that, one little screw up that comes out in the middle of May throws the whole thing in the ash can.
No, it doesn't.
Okay, then, that's what happened before.
That's
if
when you
wanna
make
go ahead,
amendments.
even though you know it has a problem, then that's what happens. If you put all your eggs in that basket,
Right, so what do you do with chapter 14?
with chapter 14, I would at least take the marijuana section out and place that on the ballot as a separate thing. You could, I don't know, it's probably 5, 6 pages. Put a
No, it's
copy of
not even that long. It's not very, it's pretty short.
Put a copy of that over in the office so people could see what you're adding, and that needs to be one article. Adopt the addition of the marijuana provisions.
Well, this is the thing about that. The only reason that that's in there, for example, is not because
You
we're,
have to change,
No,
oh, okay, you had your hand out, okay.
Yep.
Sorry.
okay, we're not proposing, the whole point of that is not because we're proposing to endorse having a marijuana clinic in town. The point of that is to not have somebody come in here and decide that Clifton would be a great place for a marijuana clinic and have no rules whatsoever, and then, go through what we went through with Pisgah Mountain and have half the town in uproar and have a moratorium, okay, and then have rules made
Right.
about a marijuana facility, in the middle of everything else. So what we actually have is, the ordinance is almost verbatim out of the city of Brewer, where they actually have, drug treatment program clinics, and so we know that it actually already works. And this is really just protecting us from having a giant
I know,
mess.
I know, I approached you, I said, I'd like to see the marijuana one. I gave you the Hamden one. The Brewer one has one provision that I would rather have the Hamden one, but I would vote for that. I think there are a lot of people that would vote for one thing in here, but might not want to vote for everything in there. One up or down vote on.
Well, I know, but then what do you do with the stuff that's messed up in Article 14?
You put that into one article. You do.
Okay, well then what do you put out as an alternative?
As an alternative?
Right, because this definitely doesn't work. Oh, I'll get to you.
No,
It definitely doesn't work.
No, you.
What's in Article 14.8 does not work
I'm not saying
today.
that you don't do everything that you want. I'm saying divide it up into more than one article, not up and down, yay or nay on the whole thing. You're holding marijuana clinics hostage, you're holding reasonable changes to the submission requirements in Article 6 hostage.
It's funny how she changed.
This is what you're telling me now. This is what I just heard from you. Let's talk about, we talked about the flip. You know, this is the flip. This is what you're telling me. If you don't separate that out, I'm gonna hold all these good things hostage for the wind.
No.
That's what I just heard from you.
No, I'm saying how other people will look at it.
Well, that's how you're looking at it.
No,
Yes,
I'm looking at it as,
That's what I hear from you.
I'm looking at it as, I'd be very, very doubtful if I could go in there and vote yes on doing the whole thing.
Only because of 14.8, right?
No.
Okay, what else?
There are a number of things that I would like to have an individual vote on in there.
Well, then how could we integrate it?
There are some that could be, yes.
Well,
Still, I mean,
then by all means, because you've come to most of the meetings, I think you missed like one snow night, because you had the best attendance of anybody, you and Jessica both. And we've definitely taken your suggestions. If you go back and you look at those comments, you made suggestions, and we actually changed stuff back. In a couple articles, you said, I don't think it would be a good idea if you change that. And we looked it over, and we said, yeah, you're right, and we changed it back to the way it was. So we've definitely been receptive to what you wrote. But if you have changes in other areas, other than this wind that we're having a discussion about, because you said there's a number of areas, then by all means, publish it, because we've definitely been open to what you've had to say.
I mean, there's so many hours in a day. I mean, you have to go back and look at the original, none of which you have paper copies of. You gotta go and look up and then trace that to.
You can get a paper copy of the original over here in the town hall. We have the originals right there, for the original, and it's online too.
I know, that's what I'm saying. If you're going online, you gotta go back and forth, and a lot of stuff has been moved, so you can't go directly back and forth. The section where it was in the original, in the proposed, is in a different article.
I see your hand, you don't have to get tired.
And none of them have been finalized yet, so you don't know. Should I spend 2 hours trying to understand this, and then I go in tonight and they're gonna take it away? So.
Well, if you write about it, then, well, we may or may not take it away. You might say to change it, and we'll change it. I mean, like I said, we've taken a number of your suggestions, and, you know, to your credit, you've gone through and said, I think this is a good idea too, and we've liked that too.
Well, one of the things you changed at my suggestion was that you had written something that was contrary to state statute. Now, I'm not gonna stand here and tell you that I know everything in that thing, in that ordinance, and be able to tell you, oh, here you got another contrary to state statute thing.
Well, yeah, but no, you pointed it out and we changed it.
You know, in 2011, we did it at a town meeting. I'm not saying you have to do that. And we had like 15 articles.
I don't think it was that many. I think it was just a couple little changes. I think there were like 3.
There were a number, and we did them at town meeting. People could ask a question and then vote. I'm not saying you have to do that. I'm just saying if people don't know, they're not going to know how to vote. And if you say it up or down, then it makes it an issue over wind turbines. It doesn't make it an issue over whether you want to improve the ordinance. It makes it an issue over whether you
Wind turbines are already allowed. And so basically where it is now is the next person that comes into town that wants to put a wind turbine in, just one, okay? Just one big wind turbine, they can come and then sue us because the ordinance is such a disaster.
All you needed was, you know, but the judge said you couldn't get the waiver. All you needed was to change in a small way so that you would not run into that problem with isocontour maps again. That's all you needed to change. You don't need to redo the whole ordinance to make that one change, to get you past that.
Well, all the other standards are incorrect.
And I think you could have even at the time, I think that if Mr. Wallace had come in and he said, I can't do an isocontour
He
map.
did.
What do you need to know that if that was supposed to give you? And you came up with another method that he could satisfy that requirement.
We tried and he said he couldn't do
I
it.
don't think he ended up in
Paul, we did that. And that's how we ended up giving him a waiver.
No,
Yeah, we did, Paula.
he never.
Charlie, you're here tonight. Did we not ask you if there's any other way you could do it and you told us no?
You're
No,
talking
you-
about the pre-development ambient concepts?
Correct.
There is no
That's what I'm
practical possible
saying,
way to do
a
it.
method other than a map.
Paula, let him finish. Let him finish, he's
Right.
talking.
So I know, because I just want to clarify, because we did go through this exercise with Charlie that week. I tried to convince him to do something that he wouldn't do, just so we could have compliance, because I realized after talking to Dave and talking to Charlie that it wasn't possible. So then I tried to fabricate something in my own mind that would work to try to settle it, but Charlie said he couldn't put a stamp on it. So once Charlie decided he couldn't put a stamp on it, that wasn't going to be acceptable to any of the people who didn't want it anyway. So it was going to be money spent for naught.
If you go way back, excuse me if I could respond, if you go way back to before the ordinance was passed, Charlie pointed out that pre-development ambient ISO contours were impossible to do.
Right.
It was in the ordinance anyway, and then when it came time to do the pre-development ambient work, we put forward a written protocol on how to do pre-development ambient sound level measurements that were generally accepted within the scientific industry. That came before the planning board reviewed it, accepted it as the protocol under which we did pre-development ambient studies. It was a written protocol, and we did it that way, and it came forward. Later on, I think there were individuals and others saying, how come you didn't do pre-development ambient ISO contours? It is physically impossible, and if you can do it 1 second after, 1 instant second after you could do it, even if you could do it, it just changed. It's impossible, makes no sense. Nobody else in the world
And my
even
point
pretends
was,
to think that you can do that.
my point was, if that's the biggest, if that's one of the bigger problems you had, fix that. Why should we have to have Nancy Pelosi standing up here waving a big document and say, just pass it, and then you can find out what's in it?
Because we know what's in it, and Nancy didn't know what was in it.
Well, you don't know what's in it because
Yeah, I
you
do.
haven't finished writing it yet.
And you're complaining about something that hasn't been finished yet.
Right, well, believe me, I know most of what's in it.
Well, this is the public hearing and
Yeah, this is good to have this interchange. We're here for 2
I agree with this, but it's what I find amusing about this conversation is this is the same thing that I complained about years ago, and this one was the one that was dead set against it. No, we got to go with a package. I was always that you take your individual ordinances and you pass them. It's amazing how things turn around. Now we're at a point that we have an ordinance that is not working on numerous areas, and it needs to be rewritten.
Rick,
Right, well, hang on a second, Paul.
No, I have to answer this, and then you can go ahead.
Okay.
Rick, I came to the selectmen in May of 2009, I believe it was, one of those years right along there, and I said, Rick has made up the shoreline zoning to update it to the current state mandates. I think it's a great idea. I put it into a form for him, I brought him over the floodplain management, I said, let's just do these. Let's work on the others separately after that. And if you don't believe me, I'll produce the evidence for you, because I came to them and they said, no, we want to go on. And I said,
You also did the same thing in front of this group, and I remember the meetings that we had.
So last week, hang on, you guys, because I actually covered this last week. Remember, actually 2 weeks ago, I covered this because this is how we got to where we got on these ordinances partially. You know, I had a hand in it too, Rick, because at the time you did. That's exactly what Rick said, and like I said, this is like a little bit of a repeat of 2 weeks ago when I brought this up for how we got to the type of ordinance that we got into, because Rick had advised us to do it all as individual elements, okay? And then Paula had been working on the comprehensive plan, and Paula was has more of the planning perspective on things, and wanted to write a comprehensive land use ordinance. And I supported Paula in that, and I didn't support you at the time, you know, for that. All right, so there definitely was a divergence of opinions at the time, you know. But one of the things this kind of points out again, you know, like Carol's talked about recently, is we get in these situations, you know, where some of these projects, they take such a long period of time that people can't sustain interest in them. So like, you know, when you started out with a comprehensive plan, my father-in-law was involved and Ruth was involved and there were a number of people involved, you know, but at the end of the day, we got to the end of the comprehensive plan, you know, we were down to like 3 people meeting and then, you know, I got asked to come in and look at it, but by the time I looked at it, it was like, you know, way past. But, you know, Paula had done a lot of work on that thing and a lot of effort into it. And that's how we got to where we are with this plan. You can sit down, Paula. I mean, this is...
No, I was kidding.
Yeah. But so, I mean, yeah, there's definitely some advantages, like right now, having some of these issues that we're having, there would be some advantages to having a thing broken out. But the fact is, you know, in 2009 or 2008, when we started to rewrite the thing, you know, and Paul and I were on it together, and I forget a few other people, you know, the year before Bruce started it, we already started down this road, and then Bruce came in, you know, after the fact, Bruce and Vern came in, and Gerald, you were on it way back too. So then Bruce and Vern came in later, and we kept going on this same flow. Now, to me, I think that we've tried, as far as the Task Force on Wind group, if the Task Force on Wind group had not been here, okay, we probably would have a weaker sound ordinance. So the thing that I find that is, you know, it kind of bothers me a little bit, is we get taken to task for, you don't listen to us. Well, that's not true, because we probably would be closer to what the DEP standard is if we didn't have the Task Force on Wind, which is not a very good standard, as you can see from North Haven Island. On the flip side, you know, we tried to come into the middle here. You know, we reduced the actual sound decibel levels for our sound standard lower, you know, but we also had a smaller radius. But as it turns out, from looking at this slide earlier, the issue, really, the distance is all, I mean, the sound dissipates by the time you get to the distance. So, you know, but we have this distance in there, just like Hassler calls it some sort of, he's called it codified, or I forget what his words were, but...
Do you recall, I did bring you, and I went to the selectmen and I said, I'm sick, I'm done with this, here's the shoreline zoning ordinance, here's the floodplain management one, put those to a vote and work on the others as you have time.
No, I know, and actually, for the record, Paula, actually during quite a bit of that time, there was a big spot in the middle there when Paula was quite sick, you know, and she really put a lot of time into it that she probably shouldn't have. You know, we even went down and worked in Paula's kitchen, you know, because they just painted this room, and actually it was smelly to me too, but she had a rough time there, so, but she still worked hard to get this stuff done. So, I mean, I do think that, you know, as much as we disagree about a couple odds and ends, she deserves a lot of credit for continuing to stick with these projects, you know, throughout all these years.
Yeah, so, has anyone else got any other?
But I don't know how to spread it out. I honestly don't. Dave actually brought your exact question up back in January, and I thought it could be done. But by the time we got into the end of February, it just didn't seem to be able to work again.
I mean, I stood up
Hang on.
in June of 2010 and told people, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Adopt this ordinance with its bumps and
Right.
stuff, and I regret that I did that. And
Well,
I'm not going to sit and not say my piece at this
yeah,
point.
we had before. Well, then, yeah, well, we would have had like a wind project in here with no ordinance. That would have been not that great.
How many parts of this are you fixing, other than the wind?
Well, quite a bit. In section 1, it's not very much. That kind of is like the overall planning thing.
Cindy, did you go over there with Cam again?
He just asked a simple question. I got it. So she's not going to ask any more questions. She just wanted to know those sections.
No,
So section,
what I'm saying is, if you're gonna rewrite a whole ordinance, then you present the whole ordinance.
It's
If
basically
you're
what we're
gonna
doing.
amend a previous ordinance, then you put forth the amendments. You don't separate the sections.
it's rewritten the whole thing.